The Honourable
Speaker.
Nanaia Mahuta.
Talofa Laving, can I just take a brief moment to acknowledge the families of the Pipe River miners who are in the gallery today, who are listening to this particular debate. They could be forgiven for thinking that we were on a whole different planet and that Budget 2015 we're delivering to the many regions across New Zealand in positive ways. Well, Mr Bennett, it gives me great pleasure to follow you. You mentioned Waikato University, but you failed to recognise what the Vice-Chancellor himself said, that the change in tertiary policy had had a huge effect on new enrolments to Waikato University, and the change in postgraduate policies also had a huge implication for enrolments at that particular university. I'm proud of our university. I'm proud of what they do. I'm proud of what they're trying to do to ensure that more young people come to Waikato University to study, but the budget didn't actually deliver to many young people who see their prospects in education and certainly in tertiary education. There have been many things that have been said through this budget debate which I'm very, very concerned about. In fact, you could be forgiven for thinking that the government wants to roll through this very quickly. When you listen to the Minister, Stephen Joyce's contribution, one might almost think that Mobi was becoming irrelevant to the aspirations of the region. Just the other day, I was in Manukau, and it was a glaring difference between where the priorities of the government were or are. We hear a lot about National's economic plan and the benefits for the country. You look on one side of the road and Mobi's office is a very dimly lit, no signage whatsoever, small building on the one side, and just across the road, the biggest building, the flashiest building on the street is Housing New Zealand. However, people in Manukau have to ring a 0800 number to try and get a house, and if they're lucky they might be rated at priority 13 and they more than likely won't get a house. There is hardship in the regions. This budget hasn't delivered to a whole lot of families who I think the budget could have. Now, Mr Bennett, you make a comment that the $25 increase to base benefits will make a difference. It will make a slight difference. But you yourself know that when the Children's Commissioner said it's a start, but it's not a plan to tackle child poverty, how can you look members on this side of the House in the face and say we're doing a whole lot to address child poverty?
Order.
In fact, the government, my apologies, Mr Speaker, in fact, the government refuses to set targets of a comprehensive whole-of-government strategy to reduce child poverty. And the opposition has continued to push for targets so that it's possible to measure in every government department, most government departments who have an ability to influence outcomes for children, that we set some simple measures in place. Coming back to the budget, Mr Speaker, there are a number of litmus tests that you might want that members would put across the budget to ensure that it was achieving something. Mine is simple: regional development, regional opportunity. I've had a lot of opportunities to visit several regions. I just want to comment on a few things that have come up through the regions and then ask whether or not this budget addressed issues for them. We were in Gisborne, and one of the visits that we had was with an entrepreneur, and he said, look at those ports out there. We want to be able to do more than export raw logs from our particular region, but the rail link is a problem. Government's done nothing there. We're still exporting raw logs. There's a huge health and safety risk in the industry itself, but there's huge potential to diversify what's happening here in Gisborne. Did the budget deliver for them? I think not. I don't think any of the investment in research and innovation will go out into the Gisborne area. Take a look at some of the areas that are saying that, yes, the net migration to New Zealand is significantly positive. However, over 50% of those people choose to live in Auckland. And that compounds the housing pressure in Auckland. In regions like Invercargill, like Gisborne, who are saying we want to attract skilled migrants into our region. It's cheaper to get a house here than in Auckland. However, we need a whole plan for regional growth and development where the government, where central government and local government and the business community can work together and collaborate around firm plans to ensure opportunity exists here. Did the budget deliver against that priority? I think not. In Pukekohe, we've just got a new milk factory built by the Chinese down the road in Pōkeno. Again, they're saying it's more than likely, under the current growth limits for the City of Auckland, that Tuakau and Pukekohe are prime areas to attract population into. But again, the regulations around housing, some of the challenges around infrastructure and the investment required, and the transport, the public transport needs, create certain pressures for places like Pukekohe and Tuakau. And they would say themselves that they've got huge challenges cutting through red tape of both local government and getting central government on side to recognise that there's more to Pukekohe than just horticulture, not just horticulture, than horticulture and the Glenbrooks steel mill just down the road at Waiuku. Did the budget deliver for them? Well, perhaps in time, but not immediately. Mr. Speaker, in the areas of education and skills training, one of the things that continues to come up more and more as I travel around the country is the cost that occurs when you try and ensure that young people have opportunities beyond school, in apprenticeships, but also to go and study at their nearest tertiary institution, whether it's to secure a trade or a professional degree. And many parents, teachers, mayors indeed, will identify that one of the significant barriers for getting their young people into training is the cost of travel from rural areas into the city. The cost of tertiary fees alone is a significant barrier, and the cost of accommodation, if they have to find accommodation in the areas where they're going to study. Has the budget delivered for them? Is there hope and opportunity for young people who are wanting to do and be more? Well, it's hard to see. It's very hard to see. Mr. Speaker, this is a serious debate and it requires serious attention. But one of the things that I'm most concerned about is the lack of a plan for young New Zealanders. As we were in urgency and we debated the removal of the $1,000 kickstart payment, if you were to believe the member for Hamilton East, David Bennett, that just because 38% of people take up the $1,000 and make no contribution, that was the justification for removing it. I totally reject that debate. I totally reject that proposition. In fact, the kickstart payment enabled families to be able to open up an account and create a savings history. And when KiwiSaver was started, it was really clear New Zealanders weren't good savers, that KiwiSaver provided an opportunity for people to start to put a little bit away in the hope of a nest egg. Taking away the kickstart payment will not help the next generation. It robs from the future and it creates no opportunity for, or hope that people can have security in retirement. Coming back to the point I really want to make, Mr. Speaker, around child poverty measures. It's time now. If the government, in making the decision to give an extra $25 to those families who most need it, to give them a little bit of support, then it's time now for the government to set some targets to reduce child poverty. A whole of government target that it reports against consistently to ensure that all the policies, a comprehensive set of policies, can reduce poverty and inequality and improve the outcomes for children and young people. We just cannot have a country where inequality gets bigger. Budget 2015 was a major flop, in my perspective, for children whose lives really require our attention and who should be put at the centre of a whole of government approach to improve the opportunity for the future. Kia ora.